here basically at the gateway to the world. Off these shores, you can go anywhere in the world, which may soon be a massive industrial offshore power plant. But at our feet are the remains of a female humpback whale, a 30-foot long female in the prime of her life. We call her number 6 because she is the 6th whale within this tiny waterway between Montauk and Cape May to have died and washed up on the beach within the last 33 days. Again, we don't know how many whales may have died offshore, but these are the ones we know about. There were 3, there was another humpback in Atlantic City. There was a sperm whale in Rockaway Beach. There was a juvenile humpback in Strathmere. There was an adult female in Amagansett, New York. And perhaps the first and most tragic, that first washed up in New York alive and then was pushed back into the ocean, where it was then died and washed up in Keensburg, was an infant sperm whale just 12 feet long. There was also a dolphin that washed up on Sandy Hook Beach. How many other whales have died? We may never know. But right now, just off our coast, if you go to whalemap.org, there are the North Atlantic right whales passing by. And you can see them right now. They're right offshore. We have an enormous amount of whale activity and whale life off our coast. And Clean Ocean Action is here today to release a letter to President Biden in response to this unprecedented amount of whale deaths. We've been working in these waters. Clean Ocean Action has been working to protect these waters for about the last 40 years. And never have we ever heard of 6 whales washing up within 33 days. The only thing different this year than in the past years is the enormous amount of offshore pre-construction and development activities occurring by the offshore wind industry. And you're going to be hearing about that in just a little bit. The other unprecedented factor is that there is an enormous amount of fast tracking by federal and state agencies. We believe steps are being skipped and things are being raced so quickly that we haven't really done the good work that needs to be done to know whether or not these offshore wind facilities are causing harm. Before we go over the letter to President Biden, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Kari Martin, who is the Advocacy Campaign Manager, and she's going to share with you the scope and magnitude of the massive industrialization that's happening right now just off our coast between Montauk and Cape May. Kari?
Thank you, Cindy. My name is Kari Martin. I'm the Advocacy Campaign Manager for Clean Ocean Action. Companies apply to the National Marine Fisheries Service for permission to injure, harm, harass, or kill marine mammals for various projects and activities. Currently, there are 11 active authorizations just in the region off of New York, New Jersey, and 5 that are pending for the incidental take authorizations and incidental take regulations by the National Marine Fisheries Service. And that is just for the offshore wind related activities happening right off of our coast. These authorizations allow the harassment, injury, and kill and harm of marine mammals. And in total of those active and pending applications, there are over 157,328 marine mammals that offshore wind companies have been given the green light or is pending to harm, harass, injure, and kill for current and pending offshore wind projects. We have a table, a fact sheet with your press releases today, and that's going along with the letter to President Biden, outlining the pending and the active IHAs or ITRs as described in the letter. Also, there are 18 previously issued and expired IHA and ITR authorizations for just this region for offshore wind. So we're talking about an enormous amount of activities affecting an enormous and extraordinary amount of marine mammals that are vulnerable and innocent. So the marine mammals we're talking about here range from different types of porpoises and dolphins, as well as seals and of course whales. Many are endangered, threatened, and protected, and need to make sure that their populations remain healthy. So the outlines in your documents all outline all those information available on the National Marine Fisheries, NOAA Fisheries website. So just that gives you an idea of the scale and scope of all the activities that are being proposed or active along our coast that are impacting our marine life. Thank you. Oh, sure. So for so in total, there are over 157,328 marine mammals that offshore wind companies have been given the green light to harm, harass, marine or kill, harm, harass, injure, or kill. Do you want me to repeat that? Okay, sorry. In total, there are over 157,328 marine mammals that offshore wind companies have been given the green light to harm, harass, injure, or kill.
Thank you, Kari. I mean, I think many of us are unaware of the magnitude and scope of what is happening off our coast. And this is just the beginning. According to the National Marine Fisheries Service, by 2030, the Northeast will host over 3,500 turbines. And these turbines are massive in scale. They're as tall as the Chrysler Building. One blade in and of itself is as tall as the Statue of Liberty. So these are going to be, in addition, making a whole lot of noise. And there hasn't been very much at all done to make sure that we are not going to destroy the very gifts that the ocean provides us, the gift of food, the gift of livelihoods, the gift of enjoyment. So that is why we're here. Never before in the history of man has there been such a massive industrialization of an ecosystem in such a short period of time. Imagine if we were to consider clear cutting the Smoky Mountains forest for solar panels. There would be riots in the street. That would never be proposed. So why are we doing such massive industrialization without doing the careful research? And that is why, we're very concerned about what is happening with the whales. Is it an omen? Is it an alarm? That is what we need to find out. And that is why we're sending a letter to President Biden. You all have it. It's right here. It's a letter that is being signed on by many organizations, many who are here today, and we'll say a few words. These groups have been doing fantastic work to raise public awareness about the concerns. But we're asking President Biden to do, number one, an immediate investigation. An investigation of what is happening here. Why have 6 whales died offshore? To capture all of the information that has been generated from all of the boats that Kari just described that are out there making a racket, doing a lot of survey work. We want to see all their records, all their logs. We want to know there are folks on these boats called protected species observers that are supposed to be monitoring for whales. How is it that 6 whales washed up? Did these observers ever even see them? These are the questions that we have, and we want these to be transparent investigations. And most importantly, we want these investigations to be peer-reviewed by outside independent scientists. There has been a great deal of concern we have on on whether or not we're getting full disclosure from all of the federal agencies working on this this expedited offshore wind plan. Number two, we want you to stop the noise. Stop all of the activity that Kari just described. Stop all of the sonar, stop all of the pre-construction activity offshore right now until we can determine whether or not that has had any impact or any part of the cause for all these whales washing up. These are endangered species, remember. So every one counts. So we want to make sure that we stop the bleeding, that we stop the whale deaths. And one way to do that would be to just stop all the noise and make sure that the offshore wind activity is not contributing to these whale deaths. And the third action we're calling for the president to take is to stop any new development. Stop solicitations, stop licensing, stop granting permits to build even more. There are 25 projects accounting for thousands and thousands of turbines. And there's even more south of us. There's no reason to keep adding more. We need to find out what harm is happening now to the ocean. And as we have said for years, we're not opposed to the idea of offshore wind development, but we want to make sure it's done right. And the key to that would be developing a pilot study first to evaluate what kinds of harms could happen and how, if they are going to happen, how can we avoid them? While at the same time, there's so many other things we could be doing to address climate change. That, first and foremost, is the cheapest, easiest, fastest, greenest alternative, which is stopping the waste of energy and implementing energy conservation measures. With the billions and billions of dollars that the federal government has, we could be doing so much more to reduce our use. Until we know more, this is all happening. This is all too much, too fast. And I know we all are as we stand here, and we know that female humpback is buried below. It's like a tragic, grim welcome mat to the offshore wind facilities that are going to be proposed right offshore this area. So forevermore, right here, we'll know that a whale washed up dead. We don't know why. It could be because of the offshore wind facilities. We must never forget, and we must urge President Biden to take these 3 simple actions. We understand they're enthusiastic about the offshore wind, but it has to be done right.